Welcome to another episode of the Dope Student Podcast.
Hey, Dope Students. Welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Dope Student Podcast. My name is Dania, and here I am my amazing co-host,
Jemiah.
Noah.
Welcome to the Dope Student Podcast, the show where we spark minds, inspire action, and explore how ordinary people do extraordinary things to make the world better. Whether you're dreaming big, building your skills, or finding your purpose, we've got stories, tools, and conversations just for you. Today's guest is the inspiring Miss V, founder and director of Still Here, an anti-gun violence organization. Brandi's mission is a deeply personal one driven by her lived experience, passion for mental health, and dedication to supporting youth. You don't want to miss this conversation. Let's dive into this episode of the Dope Student Podcast.
Your story is so powerful. What was your turning point in your life that pushed you to create Still Here?
Great question. So my first love, and my son's dad was shot, unfortunately, and he was a vegetable for 10 years in the hospital. So he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, he couldn't eat on his own. He could only really communicate through his eyes, unfortunately, but he was breathing on his own. He wasn't on life support or anything like that. So for 5 years, I was very upset, very depressed, angry, crying, but very hopeful. And 5 years in, I said I have to do something because my son wasn't the only kid in the neighborhood who had dealt with gun violence, who had a parent that was outside of the household. And I really wanted to be an advocate for them, right? Because you guys have so many pressures on you. And as adults, we just keep going because we're used to it. But I was like, wait a minute, our kids are suffering. Like, they need a voice. They need a safe space. They need a moment. So we came together as a community in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And we took kids from every section of NYCHA housing, and we did a cooking competition and a dodgeball tournament.
Okay.
How do you stay motivated and keep pushing forward when the mission feels overwhelming?
Moments like this. Moments where I get to connect with you guys, where I get to see life through the eyes of a young person. It really motivates me. It really gets me going. That and then seeing the number of young people that we lose every day. Gun violence is one of the number one leading causes of death in our young people. So that definitely fuels my fire, for sure.
You talk about failing forward. What's one failure you've had that turned out to be a blessing in disguise?
Y'all have some great questions. I love this. Okay, so failing forward. I became a mom at 16. How old are you?
13.
13. How old are you?
14.
How old are you?
13.
So imagine in a few years becoming a mom. No, just no. It's like, how could I do something like as big as lead a person's life and take care of them and keep them alive? My son that I had when I was 16 turned 20 the other day. And he's an amazing human being. He's super responsible. He's super compassionate, loving, and just so much more than I could have imagined producing. So I would definitely say that was one of my greatest fail forward moments. And not to say that because you become a mom before society expects you to, that you're a failure, but I definitely was not in a position to give him the best life he deserves. So I would say that that's my biggest fail forward moment.
What's the most surprising thing you've learned about yourself while working in violence prevention and mental health?
I would rather talk with you guys than talk with adults. Surprisingly, but not surprising.
Okay. You say help exists. What do you think stops people, especially youth, from seeking it?
Acceptance. Right? Accepting that something doesn't feel right, accepting that something doesn't look right, shame, fear of disturbing your household, right? Because sometimes when we tell our stories, we have to tell other people's stories. So we may be afraid of, the backlash of what comes with speaking up and seeking help.
How can students and young people take small steps to be more kind and trauma-informed in their daily lives?
So easy. So when you see your peers, if you can just start with a smile, It'll change the trajectory of the entire relationship. The tones we use when we speak to one another, right? Being transparent with how we feel. So imagine someone stepped on your brand new shoes or pulled, you just did your hair and they're like, doing too much around your hair, right? And you can just kindly say, that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. You think you could back up a little bit? As opposed to getting all upset and riled up and maybe turning things into a physical altercation. So using your voice kindly.
Your work focuses on the aftermath of violence. What's one thing people often overlook about its long-term impact?
The family. My son will never know what it's like to pitch a ball with his dad. He can never play baseball with his dad. Those long-term effects. He, recently went off to school and bought a new vehicle and all of these things. He has a village, thank God, but I know how badly he wishes that he had his dad. So just the impacts and the aftermath of violence on the families, for sure.
What advice do you have for young people who want to get involved in making a difference but feel like they're too small to create a change?
Just do it. Just do it. Like, everything you need to succeed is already in you. You just have to build it up through education, practice, experience. Just do it.
Can you share a moment when working with youth completely changed your perspective on something?
A moment where working with youth completely changed my perspective on something. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So I work with an amazing program called the Gear Up program on Saturdays. And I recently did a survey asking the young people, which was your favorite topic and what would you like to talk about more? And we talk about a lot of topics. The last thing I expected them to want to talk about was sex trafficking and self-preservation. So when I'm looking through my surveys and I'm like, you want to talk about self-preservation at 12 years old? And it's just amazing. Like your minds always challenge me to become better, to go find more information. One of the reasons I'm here is to find more education on different programming that we can incorporate into our county.
What role does collaboration play in your success, and how can students learn to collaborate effectively in their own lives?
Huge. I would not be sitting here if it was not for collaboration. We came across Mr. Jarrett's class and his social media because someone on my team said, hey, Brandi, check this out. Excuse me. I often talk about my village. If it wasn't for the village, I wouldn't have been able to be a teen mom who overcame the things that I was able to overcome and sit here with you today. If it wasn't for collaboration, I literally wouldn't even be this cute. And I'm not trying to be too contagious. Too conceited. My hair, my friend helped me with my hair yesterday. I would have still been home trying to figure out my hair. Today I have to go to school after this. My mom's going to pick up my daughter and take her to dance for me. So my entire life is about collaborating. And the way I would encourage young people to do so is just to ask. The worst thing a person could tell you is no. And who's going to bleed? Nobody. So just ask. Voice what you need. And understand that where a door closes, another one opens. And if another one doesn't, there's always a window.
Publishing a book with your siblings must have been wild.
Wild.
What was that process like, and how did you learn from it?
So really quickly, I was an only child growing up in the household with my mom until I was 13. My dad has 6 other children besides me that are not with my mom, so a blended family. So we were strangers for the most part. We didn't know much about how we work or what we like or any of those things. And they're all amazing human beings, but I just learned so much about them, and it challenged me, right? Because being an only child and then just having my brother growing up, I was in charge, right? I was I'm the go-to person, and relinquishing, being in charge, and not needing to play all the roles is a beautiful thing. Seeing my sister's strengths and their weaknesses and being able to support them is an amazing thing. And then learning that we're all so similar, but we're strangers at the same time. Well, we were strangers prior to coming together to create this amazing book, Manifesting Me. And it's a activity book all about manifestation. So pretty much anything that you want, you can obtain, and it really, life is really in the tongue.
How do you make conversations about mental health approachable for students who may not want to open up?
We have a lot of fun. We do DIY projects, face scrubs. I love to follow Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which really just outlines the different needs and components that would help children to realize how beautiful you guys are, how powerful you guys are, and how capable you really are. So I just take those principles and concepts and just find either creative ideas, or I find other people, I collaborate, and I bring other people in so that they can bring their expertise to the table and get you guys comfortable. Once we connect and we're able to be transparent and keep it real, it's wide open.
If you can go back and give teenage Brandi one piece of advice, what would it be?
Slow down. Slow down. Everything meant for you is coming. Don't rush it. Enjoy life rent-free in your mama house. Slow down for sure.
Thank you, Ms. B, for